A girl named Teresa is seated by the water in a lake house at the start of the film while listening to music. She is surprised as Caleb suddenly comes behind her. She gets upset when he makes fun of her and advises him to check on his sick girlfriend. He replies that she is resting and that he already administered her medicine. When Teresa later enters the cabin, she discovers Jessica sound asleep. She settles into an adjacent chair and begins reading a gothic book silently. Jessica abruptly starts reciting passages from the book in a weird voice. Teresa then rushes to Jessica's aid as she falls to the ground. Unexpectedly, a deranged Jessica tears Teresa's scalp from her skull. When Teresa reaches Caleb outside, he is shocked to see her state. Jessica goes there as well. Jessica snatches a drone in the air before diving into the lake. Caleb dives into the ocean to save her, but he drowns and is dismembered there. She decapitates him and hurls his head in Teresa's direction. Then, menacingly, she rises from the lake. A worried woman named Beth is sitting in the bathroom doing her pregnancy test when the scene cuts to the previous day. She finds out she's expecting. She then seeks guidance from her sister Ellie. In Los Angeles, Ellie resides in an old flat. She has 3 children and works as a tattoo artist. Danny aspires to be a DJ, Bridget is a conscientious young lady, and Cassie is the younger one. When Bridget answers the door after hearing a knock, she finds Jake, their neighbor, inviting her to an event. He has feelings for her. Soon after Beth comes to Ellie's house, the sisters' relationship appears strained and distant. When Beth first meets the kids, they appear disturbed when she pulls out a present for their dad. Ellie informs Beth that she has been apart from her spouse for a while when the kids aren't around. Ellie responds that she sent her messages but didn't hear back when Beth asks her why she didn't tell her about this. She is furious even after Beth apologizes to her. A huge earthquake strikes the earth as the kids are coming home. When the earthquake ceases, Danny investigates the hole it left behind and finds an attic there. He observes several holy relics defending particular goods. He decides to bring a book to the flat thinking their mother would like it. Danny seems determined about doing it, despite Bridget's hesitation. He takes the book and some records as well. Ellie worries about the kids when she gets back to the flat, and she goes to a neighbor boy Gabriel for help, but the kids come back. She sighs in satisfaction. Danny and Bridget retire to their rooms afterward. Danny attempts to open the book, but instead cuts his finger, spilling blood on it, causing the book to open on its own. Bridget closes the book after becoming terrified by the book's terrifying illustrations. Before leaving the room, she instructs Danny to put the book back. Danny reads from the book's horrible records as recounted by the priest who disobeyed God and opened it. Danny is terrified and tries to turn off the music, but it continues, and suddenly the book's pages turn by themselves. Ellie, on the other hand, is loading her possessions in the lift when she is attacked by an invisible evil and passes out there. She calls for assistance after experiencing head discomfort upon waking. But Sinister brutally ties her up with the wires. Suddenly, the electricity goes out, and Bridget informs Beth that their particular building is the only one that is affected. Ellie shows up there while under the influence of a demon spirit known as Deadites, as Danny checks the power fuse and Bridget ignites candles. She enters the kitchen and ignites the gas. The kids and Beth stare at her in amazement as she sets a frying pan on the stove and begins to fry eggs in it. Beth tries to speak with her, but she is insane. She creeps in their direction while pledging to kill her children. She then starts vomiting uncontrollably as Beth and the kids watch in horror. She then regains consciousness and informs Ellie that she has been kidnapped by a monster. Before passing out on the floor, she pleads with Beth to save the kids. They discover she has passed away as they are checking on her. While Danny and Beth attempt to transport her to the hospital, the lift is broken. Beth begs Mr. Fonda and her neighbor Gabriel for assistance. Beth makes her bond with Ellie known after Ellie has been placed in bed. On her phone, Ellie suddenly leaves a voicemail stating that she is burning, and as Beth glances at Ellie, she notices a fly in her eye and blinks. When the kids get there, they find out that their mother is still alive. They attempt to put her in a cold water bathtub while she is burning. She flies to the ceiling and rolls her eyes at once. They are outraged by Ellie's behavior. She then crawls up and screams violently, which Gabriel and Mr. Fonda her outside, and the bathroom mirrors also break due to the intensity of the sound. She then fumbles into the tube before emerging once more as Danny calls for her. She claims that her mother is currently surrounded by maggots. She later exits the bathtub and tries to hit Beth with a piece of glass. Bridget begs her to abandon Beth in the meantime. Danny strikes Ellie with a chair as she is attacking Bridget, causing her to fall into a shadowy area. Gabriel then shows up, and Ellie immediately assaults him from the room. Before flinging him to the ground, she chews out his eye. Ellie bangs on the door outside as Beth locks it. Through the peephole, Beth witnesses Ellie ruthlessly murder Jake. Suddenly, Gabriel shows up and cries out for assistance, but Ellie slashes her throat, killing him. When Mr. Fonda fires her with his gun, she immediately dismembers him. When Bridget informs Danny that their mother resembles the pictures in the book, Danny and Bridget start fighting. Beth tries to separate them. She is told by Danny that he intends to show her something. She is given the information after he shows her the book. Bridget observes a color change in the wound she sustained during her mother's attack. Suddenly, she starts to bleed black blood. She tries to wipe it off right away, but instead of succeeding, she frightens herself by vomiting a huge swarm of insects. While this is going on, Cassie overhears her mother humming a song and joins in. Ellie pursues her and grabs her by the throat as she attempts to open the door. Beth shuts the door once more as Beth and Danny arrive to offer assistance. When Beth checks the kitchen after hearing some voices there, she finds Bridget seated at the counter. She observes her biting into a wine glass. She spits on Beth's face while laughing. Bridget crawls towards Beth as she reclines backward. Beth's foot is hurt, yet she still manages to knock her over. She then strikes Cassie, who mistakenly uses the sharp end of a pole to pierce her. Danny tries Bridget to bed and feels guilty for being the cause of the entire catastrophe because he thinks she is dead. After he hands Beth the book and the vinyl records he thinks are to blame for the mayhem. Then, Beth secludes herself in a space to hear the recordings. She overhears the priest talking about how he had to get rid of his possessed co-workers because there was nothing more he could do to halt them except destroy them completely. Bridget exits the room later to murder Cassie. Danny tries to defend his sister by pushing Cassie to safety and stabbing Bridget, but she responds by pulling out the knife and stabbing his hand before spitting blood all over his face. She then claims that he disregarded her request for the book to be returned. Danny sets her ablaze despite suffering serious injuries in the process. Deadite Ellie enters the flat through the air vents in the interim and attacks Beth once more. Beth exits the room and trips over injured Danny and Cassie cowering under the table. After apologizing to Cassie, Danny dies. Ellie discovers Beth is pregnant while being restrained and almost tears her apart. Fortunately, Beth uses a pair of scissors to stab Ellie in the nose. Beth and Cassie then dash for the lift to escape. However, the stairs to the lower floor have fallen apart and the lift is broken. Immediately, Beth seizes the shotgun from Mr. Fonda's hand. Ellie takes the scissors out of her nose. Ellie confronts them just as Beth is ready to blow up the fire escape door, which causes Beth to shoot Ellie in the leg. Ellie, however, gets up and informs Cassie that Beth is attempting to keep her apart from her mother. According to Cassie, she is a demon and not her mother. The dead neighbors now rise as the Deadites are unable to escape after Beth shoots Ellie's arm off as well. Beth confines herself in the lift while placing Cassie inside. All of the Deadites come out with Ellie by ripping through her body parts as the lift fills with blood. The blood fills the lift to the brim, and the weight causes it to fall to the ground floor. Beth frantically tries to rouse up Cassie, who is still alive, as the blood-stained doors open. The two attempt to flee in the car thanks to Cassie having the keys. A little while later, the Deadites show up at the parking lot, and Beth notices that the car is stuck. The Deadite pulls Cassie along with it as the two manage to escape by passing beneath the closing park gate. Beth steps in just in time to stop the Deadite from chainsawing Cassie's head off. Then it turns to Beth and attempts to crush her with a large crusher mounted on a construction vehicle. But luckily Cassie succeeds to save Beth by shutting off the machine. Then Beth takes the chainsaw and tells Cassie to start the grinder again. She continues to slash at the Deadite until all of its flesh is gone. When Beth realized that her sister had already passed away, she kicked Ellie's detached head into the machine. Beth and Cassie leave the building. Jessica is prepared to depart the following day for her holiday at the lake house. She observes the aftermath of the catastrophe from last night in the parking lot. She cries nervously as the intangible devil tries to attack her. There, the film ends. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so you can stay updated with our daily movie recaps.